All right, let's jump right in. Today we're going deep into Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, into one of the most unsettling locations you find there.
Oh, yeah.
The Old Forest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you think forest, you might think, oh, nice peaceful walk in the woods.
Right.
This is not that.
Not this forest.
This forest has a mind of its own.
It does.
And it's not exactly a welcoming one.
No, and it's interesting where it falls in Fellowship of the Ring, because the Hobbits have just left the Shire, full of that adventurous spirit.
Yeah, they're ready to go.
They're ready to go, and Tolkien throws them into this forest, and the whole mood changes.
Oh, totally. And he does such a good job, I think, of making it menacing.
Yeah.
Because you really feel in the book like the trees themselves are out to get these hobbits.
Well, he was such a master of language that he used very specific words to evoke this feeling of unease. He's talking about whispering leaves and shifting branches and this constant feeling of being watched.
Yeah, you feel like something's there.
Yeah, it's like the forest is alive and aware.
Yeah, but not in a good way.
But not in a friendly way.
Yeah,
right?
Like a fairy tale forest.
Yeah.
But gone wrong.
Yes, gone very wrong. And, he uses a lot of personification to give these trees human qualities, but in a very sinister way.
Right.
They're not just background scenery.
They're part of the story.
They have agency, even malice. They're active participants in this story, and that's where the real unease comes in.
Yeah, you get this sense of like the forest is almost closing in on you.
Absolutely.
Like it's this oppressive, almost suffocating presence.
Yes. He talks about the air being heavy and still, and the paths, they twist and turn in very confusing ways. And it's like the forest is deliberately disorienting the hobbits, playing with their senses.
It's messing with them.
Yes. And I think this ties into one of the themes we see in Tolkien's work. Nature's power.
Okay.
It's beautiful. Yes, but it can also be incredibly dangerous and unpredictable.
Unforgiving.
It doesn't care about the well-being of humans or hobbits.
No, it does not. And you really see that in this chapter.
Yes.
This is where it really feels like, okay, the Hobbit's little adventure turns into a fight for survival.
Precisely. And up to this point, they've been enjoying the open road, the novelty of being away from home. But in the Old Forest, the stakes are raised.
Right, the danger is real.
They're facing real threats, and we see their individual personalities emerge under this pressure.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little more.
Okay.
How did the different hobbits react to all this intensity?
Well, take Sam, for instance. He's practical, resourceful already, showing those traits that make him such a steadfast companion to Frodo later on. And then you have Merry, who might seem like a prankster at first.
Right.
But in the forest, he surprises us with his knowledge of the woods. He's not just along for the laughs.
Yeah, he's got skills.
He has skills, and then there's Pippin.
Oh, Pippin.
Who definitely provides some comic relief.
Yeah.
But his naivete also highlights how real the danger is. It's not a game anymore.
No, they're not playing around.
No, and Pippin's missteps underscore that it's not fun and games in the Old Forest.
It can be deadly.
Even Frodo, who's the most determined of the group, starts to feel the weight of their circumstances, so the forest affects them all.
It's like they're being tested in ways they've never been tested before.
Exactly.
And I think the best example of that is their encounter with Old Man Willow.
Oh, yes.
That scene is pure nightmare fuel.
Oh, it is. And the way Tolkien builds the suspense leading up to it lulls you into this false sense of security.
Yeah.
They're tired. They need a place to rest. And this willow tree by the river seems like the perfect spot. But of course, it's a trap.
It's totally a trap. You think, willow tree, that's so peaceful and calming. And then, bam.
Right.
This ancient evil.
And the reason why Old Man Willow is so effective as a villain is that he represents, or he taps into, those primal fears. This idea of nature turning against you.
Yeah.
This fear of being trapped, helpless. Powerless in the face of something so much older and stronger than yourself.
Like you can't win.
Right. And this is where we see Sam's quick thinking again.
Yeah. He comes through.
Proving how crucial he is. But even after escaping Old Man Willow, things don't get any easier.
No, because then they run into something completely different.
Yes.
But somehow just as unsettling.
Just when things seem their darkest, who should appear but Tom Bombadil?
Oh my gosh, talk about a shift in tone.
Right.
1 minute you're running for your life from this evil tree, and the next you're face to face with this singing, joyful figure who just seems to control the forest.
Yeah, it's jarring.
Yeah, it's very jarring.
And that's what makes Bombadil so fascinating.
So strange.
He has this immense power over the forest, but it's effortless, almost playful.
Right, and you never really know with him.
No, and Tolkien very deliberately left his origins very ambiguous.
You never get a clear answer.
No, who or what Bombadil is a mystery.
Which I kind of love.
Yes.
It's like he's inviting us to be part of this mystery.
Yes.
You're not just reading the story, you're trying to figure out, who is this guy?
What is he?
What is he?
Yeah, and there's something very powerful about that. It's like he represents something beyond our understanding.
Yeah, almost like he's a symbol of nature itself.
Yes.
Untamed and unpredictable.
And that's what makes him so different from the other characters we encounter in the story, because they're all clearly defined, by their roles in the conflict between good and evil.
Right, good guys, bad guys.
But Bombadil exists outside of that.
Yeah, he's got his own thing going on.
He operates by his own rules.
Which can be kind of unsettling.
For some readers, yes, very much so.
Yeah, because it's like he's a reminder that there are forces out there that we can't control.
Absolutely.
Maybe even forces we can't fully comprehend.
Right, and that can be both exciting and terrifying.
Yeah, it throws into question everything we think we know about Tolkien's world.
Yeah.
He's challenging us.
Yes, making us think differently.
Yeah, and so even though Tom Bombadil seems like this whimsical, almost comical figure,
yeah,
he adds a whole other layer of complexity
absolutely.
to the story.
He's a wild card, and his appearance raises more questions than it answers.
For sure.
But that's part of the brilliance of Tolkien's writing. He leaves room for interpretation, for speculation.
He makes you think.
He makes you think.
And I think that is a perfect place to wrap up part one
Okay.
of our deep dive into the Old Forest. We've talked about the forest as this menacing character, the hobbits facing real danger for the first time, the terrifying Old Man Willow, and the very strange Tom Bombadil.
It's a lot to take in.
It is a lot, but there's still so much more to uncover.
Oh yeah, we've just scratched the surface.
So stay tuned for part two, where we delve even deeper into the symbolism, the themes, and the hidden meanings behind this crucial episode in the Hobbit's journey. So we left off with the Hobbits meeting Tom Bombadil, which, let's be honest, is a pretty weird encounter, but I'm curious about something we've been talking about, how scary and intense the Old Forest is, but Bombadil seems so cheerful and carefree. It's almost like he doesn't belong in this dark, dangerous place.
That's an excellent point, and I think it gets to the heart of what makes Bombadil so fascinating. He's this anomaly, this being of pure joy and power in a place that's so full of, fear and uncertainty. It's like he's untouched by the darkness.
So how does that play into like the larger themes of this chapter? Because I feel like there's something deeper going on here than just this random encounter with this strange character.
You're right. Tolkien doesn't just throw things in there for no reason. Remember how we were talking about the Old Forest being like this microcosm of Middle-earth itself?
Yeah, like a mini Middle-earth.
Exactly. Well, I think Bombadil represents something important about the very nature of this world.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Oh.
Tell me more about this microcosm idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think our listener might need a little help visualizing what you mean.
Sure. Imagine the Old Forest as like a miniature version of Middle-earth. You've got beauty, you've got danger, you've got ancient forces at play, good versus evil, all these elements that define Tolkien's world, but condensed into this one location.
So the forest is like a testing ground for the hobbits.
Yes.
A place where they get a taste of what's to come in the larger story.
Exactly. And Bombadil's presence adds another layer to that. He's like a reminder that even in a world filled with darkness and danger, there's still these pockets of pure joy and wonder, these places untouched by the shadow of Sauron.
It's almost like he's a symbol of hope or maybe even resilience.
I think both of those interpretations are valid. He shows the hobbits and us as readers that there's still beauty and magic in the world, even when things seem really bleak.
So even though Bombadil might seem like this strange detour in their journey, he actually serves a really important purpose.
Absolutely. He's not just a random character. He's symbolic of something much bigger. And I think his presence also reinforces the idea that there are these forces at work in Middle-earth that even the wisest beings can't fully comprehend.
Like Tolkien is saying, hey, there's still mysteries in this world.
Right, and not everything has to fit neatly into our categories of good and evil, light and darkness. There are shades of gray, and Bombadil embodies that in a really interesting way.
But getting back to the hobbits themselves, it seems like this chapter is really where they start to transform from these carefree adventurers into something more.
Absolutely. The Old Forest is a crucible for them, a place where they're really tested and forced to confront their own limitations. They're no longer on this fun little outing. They're facing real danger, and that changes them.
It's like they're being stripped of their innocence in a way.
Yes.
Forced to grow up.
Forced to grow up faster than they expected, and we see that growth reflected in how they interact with each other.
Okay.
Before entering the forest, they were just a group of friends on a journey. But now they're starting to become a fellowship, a true team.
So the forest isn't just a physical challenge.
No.
It's like an emotional and psychological one as well.
Precisely. It forces them to rely on each other, to trust each other, and that's where the seeds of their future bond are sown.
That's a good point. It's interesting how Tolkien uses this very specific location to kind of explore these larger themes of friendship, courage, resilience.
Yeah.
It's like the forest itself is a character in the story, shaping the Hobbits' destinies.
It absolutely is, and that's one of the things that makes the Old Forest such a compelling chapter. It's not just about scary trees and strange encounters. It's about the transformation of these characters and the forging of their fellowship. It's about the power of nature, the mysteries of the world, and the challenges that force us to grow and evolve.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about like the deeper meaning of the Old Forest, but I want to bring it back to the Hobbits themselves. We've touched on their individual reactions to the forest, but let's dive into that a bit more.
Yeah.
How does each Hobbit personality shine through in this chapter, and what does that tell us about their future roles in the story?
That's a great question. Let's start with Sam. We see his loyalty and practicality right from the beginning. He's the one who packs extra provisions, worries about Frodo's well-being, never loses sight of the task at hand. He's like the anchor of the group, the voice of reason and common sense. It's almost as if Tolkien is subtly foreshadowing Sam's crucial role as Frodo's steadfast companion throughout this whole perilous journey.
Yeah, you can definitely see that even in these early chapters, Sam's devotion to Frodo is so evident. He's always looking out for him, even when he's grumbling about it.
Exactly. And then there's Merry. He's often seen as the prankster, the lighthearted one. But in the Old Forest, we get glimpses of his hidden depths. Remember how he uses his knowledge of the woods to guide the group? It shows that he's not just a joker, he's intelligent and resourceful.
That's true. I think a lot of readers underestimate Merry. He's more than just comic relief. He's got this practical side that really comes in handy later on.
Absolutely. And Pippin, despite his tendency to stumble into trouble, also reveals some surprising qualities. His curiosity, while sometimes getting him into trouble, also reflects a sense of wonder and a willingness to embrace the unknown.
Yeah, even though he's naive and impulsive, there's a certain bravery in his willingness to just face whatever comes his way.
And even Frodo, the most determined of the four, shows moments of vulnerability in the face of the forest's power. It reminds us that he's not some superhero. He's a hobbit who's been thrust into this situation that's far beyond anything he's ever experienced.
It's like Tolkien is reminding us that even the bravest hearts can be shaken by fear and uncertainty.
Exactly, and that's what makes these characters so relatable. They're not perfect. They make mistakes, they experience doubt and fear, but they keep going, they support each other, and that's what makes their journey so compelling.
So the Old Forest really is more than just this scary setting.
Oh, yeah.
It's a place where these characters are tested and transformed, where their bonds are strengthened, and where the seeds of their future heroism are planted.
Beautifully put, it's a testament to Tolkien's skill as a writer, that he can pack so much meaning and depth into a single chapter.
And it makes you appreciate how much thought and care he put into crafting this world and these characters.
Absolutely. It's why The Lord of the Rings continues to resonate with readers generations later. It's a story that speaks to our deepest fears and aspirations. And The Old Forest is a perfect example of how Tolkien uses setting, character, and symbolism to create this truly unforgettable experience.
Okay, so we've explored these dark depths of the Old Forest. We've talked about the Hobbit's transformation and the mystery of Tom Bombadil. But before we wrap up our deep dive, I want to touch on something that I think is crucial to understanding this chapter. It's the idea of foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah.
Tolkien packs so much into this one little episode that hints at what's to come in the larger story.
It really does. The Old Forest is like a microcosm of the challenges and themes that are going to unfold throughout The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's like he's giving us this little glimpse of the epic journey ahead, but on a smaller, more intimate scale. So I'm curious, what specific examples of foreshadowing stand out to you in this chapter? What hints does Tolkien drop that maybe we didn't catch on a first read?
Well, let's start with the forest itself. The way it's described, this oppressive, disorienting, almost malevolent force,
Right.
it foreshadows the larger threat of Mordor and that shadow of Sauron that looms over Middle-earth. It's like the forest is a mini Mordor,
A little taste of what's to come.
a taste of the darkness that they're eventually going to have to face.
Right. It sets the stage for this growing sense of danger and urgency that's going to propel the story forward. and the Hobbits' reactions to the forest
Yes.
also seem to foreshadow their roles in the Fellowship.
Absolutely. Sam's loyalty and practicality, Merry's resourcefulness, Pippin's impulsiveness, even Frodo's quiet determination. All these traits are amplified in the forest, and it gives us this glimpse of how they're each going to contribute to this quest.
And what about the encounters with Old Man Willow and Tom Bombadil? Do you see any foreshadowing in those episodes?
Definitely Old Man Willow, with his ancient power and malicious intent, foreshadows the many powerful and dangerous creatures that the hobbits are going to encounter on their journey. It's a reminder that this world is full of forces that are beyond their understanding.
Like a warning not to underestimate what's out there.
Exactly. And then you have Bombadil. He's such an interesting case.
He's so different.
He is, while he doesn't directly foreshadow specific events, I think he represents a larger theme that runs throughout the story. The idea that there are still mysteries in this world.
Right.
Things beyond our comprehension.
Like he's a reminder that not everything can be explained.
Exactly. That there are still pockets of wonder and magic even in these dark times.
Like he's a symbol of hope, a beacon of light
Mm-hmm.
in this world that's increasingly threatened by darkness.
Precisely. And I think his presence also underscores the idea that even in the face of this overwhelming evil, there are still forces of good out there that are resisting.
Right, he's untouched by Sauron.
Yes, and that's a powerful message.
So even though the Old Forest might seem like just this little detour on the Hobbit's journey, it's actually a crucial chapter
Oh, it is.
that sets the stage for everything that follows.
I couldn't agree more. It introduces these key themes, it foreshadows the challenges they're going to face, and it highlights those bonds that are growing between the hobbits. It's like a masterclass in storytelling.
Tolkien at his best.
Absolutely packed with symbolism and these little subtle hints that, you really have to pay attention to catch.
It makes you want to go back and reread it.
Yes. And that's the beauty of Tolkien's work.
Yeah.
It's so rich and layered that there's always something new to discover.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the Old Forest.
Okay.
Hopefully our listeners have enjoyed this journey into one of the most fascinating and unsettling locations in Middle-earth.
It's been a pleasure.
And before we go, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. If you were a hobbit entering the Old Forest, what would you be most afraid of? The whispering trees, the twisting paths, the ancient power of Old Man Willow, or maybe the unsettling mystery of Tom Bombadil? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and until next time, may your journeys be filled with adventure, but hopefully with a little less peril than the hobbits faced in the Old Forest.
Me